You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
So, the reaction is still coming in to last week's appearance of Dr. or Colonel John Alexander on the Paracast. Of course, I guess some of the comments are that this guy may be himself a military disinformation agent. Chris, you've known Colonel Alexander for many, many years. What's your take on it?
I wouldn't say many, many years. I've known him since, I've known him about 4 or 5 years.
Okay, in those 4 or 5 years, what's your take on him?
Well, being a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army with a background in intelligence and some pretty nefarious tasks that he's performed, I think, in his military career. He was involved in Vietnam, doing long-range recon, which may or may not involve Project Phoenix and, programmed assassinations and taking out strategic hamlets and that sort of thing. So someone with that kind of background is going to really obviously have a real tight command and control over what he says, and is very, very conscious of, security oaths and other things that he's taken in the past. So someone in his position, I think, is handcuffed to a certain degree. But I've always gotten the impression that he's been very upfront. I've never got him to say, I can't tell you that. I know, but I can't tell you, or I can neither confirm or deny that you've asked me that. So I haven't gotten any of the standard disclaimers or refusals to answer questions, perhaps because I haven't asked the right question. I think in the conversations that I've had with him, he comes across as being genuine and telling me how he really feels about whatever particular subject we're talking about. And I think his long and storied career and his involvement with Los Alamos and with the NIDS organization have really turned his head towards a direction of seeking a all-encompassing mechanism or formula that ties together various divergent, seemingly unrelated paranormal phenomena. I really feel that he is a seeker. The whole thing about the NRO and monitoring near-Earth space and, not having any sort of information about the NRO in his book. I think there are some things that he knows that he is just hoping somebody's not going to ask him. He would have to deflect or clam up about a particular subject. But I think as I get to know him more, I think he's become more open. And I think at some point I'm going to start really asking him some real tough, hard questions that, might push the envelope a little. All in all, I think he's really trying to communicate as much as he can. And I do have a sense that he's being upfront.
And I think the reason some people will pose this, of course, is because of his intelligence connections. They have the same suspicions back in the early days when Major Kehoe's organization, NICAP, had a number of former military on their board of governors, including the first head of the CIA.
Yeah, Roscoe Hillenkotter.
Yes, Roscoe Hillenkotter. And you think, why does a guy like that get involved? He did leave NICAP after a time, and I suspect part of it is the blowback. So you look at someone like Dr. Alexander, and there obviously has to be a point there where he cannot answer a question, or he'll deflect it, or he will give you the disinformation answer, which may be one of the perceptions here, that maybe when you get too close to some things, he will answer the question, but not really give you the full, honest answer. I think one of the concerns people had also was when I was asking him about tasers and the experience in tasers, and I said, aren't there a lot of fatalities? He mentioned about 10, but one of our listeners in our forums pointed to several thousand.
Well, several hundred. I think it's up in the 500s. But, again, if you don't really follow these things, which I would be surprised if he didn't, I think that was a little disingenuous on his part to come up with such a lowball number. You really have to always, when it comes to classified information or potentially classified subjects and information, unless you have a need to know, there's no way that you're going to be able to compromise sources. And if you are, you're going to be extremely lucky. And I would think it's rare to be able to get around and circumvent not having a need to know. It doesn't matter how much you ask. If you don't have that clearance or that need to know, it's going to be very, very difficult for you find out anything concrete. And, it's one thing to hear rumors and asides from individuals. It's another thing to actually get smoking gun evidence in the form of documentation or, 3 people confirming a particular fact or a particular scenario. So, he does have that kind of working against him. And his attempt to form a UFO working group within the intelligence and military community to try to figure out the extent of official knowledge of UFOs, I think was kind of doomed from the beginning because of this whole scenario of having or not having a need to know.
You can ask away and you'll never get the answers. And then it gets back to the original thing. If I tell you I have to kill you, which is a joke, but it means he couldn't tell you even if he knew. He couldn't even tell you if he knew. And it gets back to that revolving circle. But anyway, he's a fascinating guest, and let's hope that we have him on again and we can ask him more questions. Now, the run-up to this week's interview, and we have Travis Walton joining us, and of course we all know the story. Back in the 1970s, he was apparently abducted by aliens. So the story goes, he was missing for several days, 5 days. And he was just a mere 22 years of age when it happened. Now, obviously, lots of questions have been raised about Travis Walton. Number one of which, of course, is, was he telling the truth? What was he doing for those 5 days? Some say, of course, they point to supposedly contradictory results with polygraph tests as an example to raise suspicion. Of course, the story was featured in a somewhat fictionalized form in a movie from the 1990s called Fire in the Sky, where actor D.B. Sweeney played Travis Walton. So, it made him famous, but certain parts of that movie, including the abduction scene, were heavily fictionalized.
Yeah, we'll talk to him about that, and I've already talked with Tracy Torme, the producer of the movie, about it, and there was some friction that occurred between the studio and the production crew and people that were responsible for producing the movie. And, they were pretty much forced to ratchet up the fear factor and heavily fictionalize the interior scenes, which were originally filmed the way they occurred. And they were sent back in to redo them because it wasn't scary enough.
It's a movie, it's an entertainment company, and to them it's not a documentary. To them it is something that is designed to get a big box office result. As a movie, it was a middling success. I guess it recovered the production cost, but not much more. And of course, Tracy Torme explained some of that the last time he was here on the Paracast.
Right.
So we know about that. So we'll ask Travis about the differences between the fictional version and what really happened to him, get some up-to-dates. And he's got this conference coming up in the same place where this incident occurred, somewhere way up there in the woods, somewhere in Arizona.
It's actually, the conference is going to be in the little town that he ended up waking up and finding himself back on Earth, as it were, in Heber, Arizona, which, as the crow flies, is only about an hour from me, not even. If I could, get on my my little personal helicopter and fly over there, I could probably do it in about 45, 50 minutes. So it's right down the Mogollon Rim from me. And the conference has quite a stellar list of speakers, myself excluded in that comment, of course.
If it wasn't driving through the mountains, I might actually go up there. It's about 2.5 hours from here. Tell you what, we've got Travis Walton coming up on the show. He'll be answering your questions, and there are lots of them. And we'll be talking about the conference where a lot of notables in the UFO field will be there, including our own Chris O'Brien. I might get there again if I decide I can handle driving through the mountainous roads. Travis Walton next with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Friends, this is Alex Jones for MidasResources.com. For more than 15 years, I have exclusively used Midas Resources for all my precious metal needs. Whether it's bullion or collectibles you're looking for, Midas Resources is simply the best. I own my gold as a hedge against inflation. This Federal Reserve fiat currency could go the way of the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic anytime. In these historically dangerous times, it makes sense to physically hold gold and silver. Midas already has some of the best deals in the industry. But if you give them a call and mention the radio special, they will give you a list of the day's super specials. Midas brokers are standing by to answer all your questions at 800-686-2237. They also have a lot of informative free literature explaining the opportunities and risk of holding precious metals. They are ready to answer your questions at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
What good is a Big Berkey water filter?
We get that question a lot here at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And in a word, the answer is protection. Protection from water main breaks, E. coli contamination, environmental chemical spills, pesticide runoff, chlorine taste and smell, and all forms of fluoride. Plus, Big Berkey water filters are the original gravity water filter system and most trusted on the market for a reason. Tested by multiple independent NSF EPA certified labs, they are the gold standard in water purification. At only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. That means big savings. Big Berkey, the one that's powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get a Big Berkey today at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. GCN listeners receive 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Visit our website or call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
I'll tell you, as Chris said in our previous segment, I think we've had more requests over the 8.5 years of the Paracast to bring on Travis Walton than just about any other guest. And Chris and I have asked him over the years, and now we finally got it together. So Travis, welcome to the Paracast.
Well, great to be here. You know, it's really strange how this has just kind of grown over the years rather than fading away. I recently sent a book to Croatia for the first time. It's just kind of phenomenal how it just continues to bring interest from around the world.
Now, before we get into this big event that you're sponsoring, and then Chris and I are kind of discussing this because I know Chris will be there, and I don't like driving through mountains. And I have to think about the fact that, to me, it's a 2.5-hour trip, and I'll probably just come for the reason that all these people are there, Chris is there, and you're sponsoring the event. I'm going to ask you about that for a moment. But you think back now that this happened. You were, 22 years of age?
Yeah. So totally unprepared for what was coming into my life. The impact of the event, of course, was just overwhelmed everything for a number of years, but I didn't even realize at the time that, my life would never, ever return to what it was.
Before we get into any of these things here, at 22 years of age, and you were working as a logger, right?
Yep. Swinging that chainsaw.
Better you than me. All right. What kind of ambitions did you have in the working world, or were you just a kid happy to have a job?
Yeah, I was just, it was just something to do. It certainly wasn't a lifetime plan. I had a number of interests. I'd taken the private pilot training classes and, certified as an EMT, a lot of interests in a lot of different areas. And, I was just so interested in so many things. I hadn't settled on anything yet, but I certainly didn't see my future as a logger, and I didn't see it as someone that involved with, this event that happened.
Had you read much at all about UFOs?
Well, I had like I said, a wide variety of interests, and it was a subject that came up. But no, I hadn't read about it. There was a lot of talk that because there had been a conversation a few weeks before at work that I was some kind of a UFO buff, but that's hardly the case at all. I'd never been to a UFO conference or anything of that sort. It was just that there had been some cattle mutilations in the area, and they were in the news, and so it kind of brought the conversation up.
Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts about this, and the reason we're going to cover a little bit of old ground is that a number of our listeners, haven't followed any of this, and maybe they saw the movie Fire in the Sky, a highly fictionalized version of what happened to you, and that's maybe all they know. Before we do that, this conference, it's happening later this year. Can you tell us something about that and who's going to be there?
Well, I resisted this, but I just had a guy that just urged me to do it, that felt it was important and willing to help make it happen. And so he talked me into it. So November 5th, we're going to have a Skywatch on the exact date. Now, it was on a Wednesday back in 1975, and this November 5th falls on a Wednesday, too. So we're having an early Skywatch, even though the conference itself is on the 7th, 8th, and 9th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So what, do you have like a hotel or something there to house people?
Well, actually, there's a big barn that's been remodeled into a banquet hall. They've been holding a lot of weddings and business conferences there, and it's just one of the few areas, a few venues in the entire area there that are capable of holding that many people.
Okay.
So it's a barn, a remodeled barn. It's going to be pretty nice, and it'll work just fine.
So this is a very small town we're talking about here. Yeah,
it's a pretty small town, and my greatest worry is having enough hotel space, But there's a lot of campgrounds there, too, so we're going to encourage as many people who come to, add a little element of adventure and come and make it a camp out, too.
Yeah, send them down to Turkey Creek on the rim there and tell them to keep a watchful eye out.
I never thought about that, but there's probably going to be people who would actually want to camp out over that way.
Yep, I've actually, Travis, I've camped there, a little closer to the rim and halfway between the site and the fire tower there.
Let me give the stats on this place. Population in 2010 was 2,822. So you can probably double that by having this event over there. It's an elevation of 6,627 feet. And in terms of locations, it's 144 miles north of Phoenix. The junction of State Route 260 and State Route 277, I guess the best route from where I am is to get onto Route 260 and come up. But there you go. Tell us about the speaker choice.
Well, I wanted to choose people who would sort of lay the groundwork in this area. You know, this is a totally new thing for the people in this area, and I wanted to, kind of get the bedrock of ufology. You know, I've got Stan Friedman speaking about the scientific basis for, the reality of this phenomenon. And just, somebody from each area that can cover.
Some of the things that were going on in the area back in that first week of November of cattle cases occurred just weeks before your event. And I find that fairly intriguing. And in my new book, Stalking the Herd, I do devote a bit of space to discuss how it's kind of hard not to make a connection between the mutilation waves and other sightings that occurred in the area just prior to your event occurring. Clifford Mahudi, who is one of your speakers, he and his family had an incredible sighting within, I think, a week or 10 days of your actual abduction. And this was up the road about 100 miles in the Zuni Reservation. And his account of this particular event is quite amazing. And I can't wait to see how people respond to, kind of a correlated event that I think may be indicative of a lot of the weird, strange activity that was going on in the area back in that early to mid fall period of 75.
Yeah, we're located between several Indian reservations here, and so naturally, I did want the Native American perspective, with the 3 Native American speakers that we're having, because that's part of the picture here. My incident happened, just a quarter of a mile from the border to the Apache reservation. So, yeah, 80 miles away is just a blink of an eye for these machines, these craft.
Hey, let's get into very much more of this in our next segment. Travis Walton joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast. We are the premier independent talk radio network, the Genesis Communications Network, GCN.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
The human body is extraordinary. Despite all the stresses we inflict upon it, it still works hard to stay in balance. Thousands upon thousands of people rely upon Heart and Body Extract to help their body stay balanced. This excellent 100% natural herbal formula helps maintain healthy blood pressure levels, cleans arteries, promotes good circulation, balances cholesterol, and more. HB Extract, paired with healthy lifestyle choices like good nutrition and exercise, can give you a life free of pain, sickness, and fear. Recapture your youthful vitality and experience your body healing itself with the aid of HB Extract. It's extremely effective and it starts working in just days. Visit hbextract.com to learn more and to read scores of testimonials from satisfied customers. And we've never increased our price in over 10 years. That makes Heart and Body Extract as great a value now as it was the first day we sold it. A healthy heart is a happy heart. Call 866-295-5305 or go to hbextract.com.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right, that's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100-foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
September is National Preparedness Month, so make it a September to remember by getting your emergency food supply from the Freeze Dry Guy. On sale this month, our 2014 Stew Butter and Potatoes unit. You'll get one number 10 can each of high-quality Mountain House chicken stew, vegetable stew with beef, pilot crackers, plus the highest quality dehydrated ABC stew, butter and potatoes for a total of 160 1/2 cup servings. Retail value $161.41, but not this month. The Freeze Dry Guy offers the 2014 Stew Butter and Potatoes unit for only $123.93. Save over $37. Plenty of protein, veggies, carbs for energy, and tasty, hearty, storable food with a shelf life of over 25 years. Call 866-404-3663. Free shipping to the lower 48 states. Click freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's freezedryguy.com. Hurry! The National Preparedness Month sale ends September 30th from the Freeze Dry Guy. The finest freeze-dried and dehydrated foods available anywhere for long-term storage.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Here with Gene and Chris, we're happy to welcome Travis Walton to the show. And of course, he's sponsoring this event in November, a UFO conference in the area where he awakened after this abduction experience. What's the event called?
It's called the Skyfire Summit, you know. Skyfire was something I came up with when I began self-publishing the book. My printer said, well, you got to have a name. So just on the spur of the moment, I came up with Skyfire Productions. And so that's the name of the conference. And Summit, is kind of a double meaning there. Summit is also the top of the mountain. And, up there, 7,000 feet where the incident happened is kind of like the top of the mountain. It's one of the highest points around. That's the name of it, Skyfire Summit.
And this is, 39 years after the original event?
The 39th anniversary.
And it's also right on the anniversary there. It's the pre-conference events are on the 5th and 6th. The actual conference itself is November 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah, well, there's even some international media in attendance already. We just barely announced, but there's a major French magazine writer flying in from France, and there's also a movie being shot, and they're going to do a little filming. This is a different French production company filming a feature film, an independent film, and they want a little background for that movie, and they're going to be filming there. And that's just and there's some other film crews coming.
Among the other speakers, by the way, and I'm looking at the list, you've got Kathleen Marden. We've got Linda Moulton Howe. Definitely want to talk to her. Peter Robbins, Richard Dolan, Donald Schmitt, Tracy Torme is going to be there.
Yes, Tracy Torme, screenwriter on Fire in the Sky.
Right.
Don Schmitt will be speaking about Roswell. Richard Dolan will be speaking about government secrecy and the cover-up and that sort of thing. So this is trying to cover the subject in a comprehensive way as best you can with 15 speakers.
Now let's go back here to the beginning. Let's return to those thrilling days of yesteryear. I sound like the Lone Ranger here. 1975. For those who, as I said, haven't heard much about your story, Or maybe you just saw the movie, which is not quite a fully accurate portrayal of what happened. Can you tell us in maybe the next segment or two a brief summary of this event? Travis?
Well, that's some of the things that the movie did get right was, here was this event, coming out of the blue, no pun intended, coming out of nowhere for a group of loggers on the way home from work. We'd finished up work and we're headed out of there. And at first we just saw this glow off in the trees. And it wasn't until we got where we had a closer view of it that we realized, that this was something truly extraordinary. I mean, the minute we burst into the clearing and had a clear view of it, everybody knew what it was immediately. The skeptics who say, oh, we just saw the planet Jupiter, or somebody was saying it was Air Force helicopters on maneuver, just silly explanations that, have nothing to do with what we're reporting and describing in detail, Here it is, wham, just unmistakable. But I just assumed it would take off before I got close. So when I started towards this thing, it was kind of a major miscalculation. The closer I got, the more anxious the crew got, and of course, the more scared I became. And when I got right up to it and was sitting there, just awestruck by the magnificence of the sight of this thing, it was. The guys in the truck, some of them said, you could just tell something was going to happen. And I think what they were really talking about there was that there was some kind of an energy buildup happening, a charge. They say that people who are, near or, about to be struck by lightning, they'll feel this, the hair rising up on the back of their neck. They're like there's a kind of a sensation of the charge before it actually erupts. And I think that's kind of what it was, because when it suddenly got louder and started to move, I just jumped into a crouch, and because there was a log in front of me, and I was just trying to get down behind that. And when I stood up to run back to the truck, I actually closed the distance between me and the craft, and I think this energy that was building up burst out of there and went to ground through me. For so many years, it was interpreted as, like a beam that was fired, some sort of a defensive weapon, or maybe deliberately attempting to, stun me or something. But, now I really do think it was just an accident that happened, because, I got so close so suddenly, and this energy hit me. Even my foremost detractor as an anti-UFO guy wrote a whole paper describing how he thought that these sightings that pilots had were just a result of this incredible electrical charge that builds up in the surface of airplanes when they travel through the air at high speed. When you refuel an airplane, you have to put a ground wire on it to prevent, the spark from igniting the fuel. And, he was saying in this paper that this, can be in millions of volts. And he was trying to explain UFO sightings in that. But none of the physicists and the scientists who examined the paper were all that impressed with it. But it does, document a genuine effect that when something flies through the atmosphere at a very high rate of speed, that it can build up these enormous charges. So it could have been something like that, because this UFO obviously could fly much faster than an airplane, but it also might have been sort of a side effect of the propulsion system or something. The tree growth that was later discovered, to have affected the trees nearest where the craft came down, could have been as a side effect of the presence of the craft and it emanating this energy. But, something that just occurred to me is, what if they were actually doing some kind of an agricultural experiment, and that was the reason for this charge, and that I kind of got in the way of something that was really intended for trees and was injured by it. So rather than being an abduction, it was more of an ambulance call, more of an attempt to revive me due to an accident that was really all my own fault.
So you think whoever piloted this craft was trying to help you or save your life even?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because, in the movie, in the movie, Hollywood is always accused of exaggerating and embellishing everything. But in the point where this bolt of light hits me, it was far more violent, just a more dazzling sight than they portrayed in the movie. And it's surprising that, Hollywood never wants to pass up a chance for a light show. But the actual blast from that was so powerful that, my body was flying through the air all like a rag doll, and, just parts of my arms and legs that come, sticking out of this ball of energy, to where the crew were saying that they were, arguing amongst themselves whether it had burned me up, disintegrated me, and Ken was saying on the way back that, his greatest fear was what my body was going to look like, all burned up, because the violence of it, the power of it. Dwayne Smith, who later became an electrician on industrial stuff, was saying that it sounded like high voltage to him, that this blast of energy, seemed very electrical.
Let's go into that response in a moment in our next segment. We have Travis Walton joining us this week. Of course, he wrote the book Fire in the Sky, and a movie was made of that book with a few changes that we'll go into in a moment. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
We are America's largest independently owned communications network, GCN.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Have you heard? Proactive Plus is faster and better than ever. Stay tuned for a 1,000,000 bottle giveaway, and you'll also receive free shipping. Do you have troubled skin? Acne? Well, we have great news. With Proactive Plus, your acne can heal, and you can help prevent new breakouts from happening. Don't miss this limited time offer. Give us a call at 800-538-5252, because we're going to let 1,000,000 people try Proactive Plus risk-free and get 2 free gifts and also receive free shipping when you call right now. You heard it. This offer won't last long. So call Proactive Plus now and you'll receive a 60-day risk-free trial of Proactive Plus, 2 free extras, and free shipping. Call 800-538-5252. This is our exclusive radio offer, never on TV. Get your risk-free 60-day trial of Proactive Plus with free shipping. That's right, free shipping. Don't wait. Call 800-538-5252. That's 800-538-5252.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-888-912-1595. 1-888-912-1595. That's 1-888-912-1595. 1-888-912-1595.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey Water Filtration Systems. The Berkey Light Systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light System today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
With Gina and Chris in the Paracast, Travis Walton is joining us. And of course, he had this, what we call abduction experience back in 1975 that was fictionalized somewhat in Fire in the Sky. And you were mentioning, in a sense then, can we say maybe that you were almost electrocuted then?
Well, it's hard to say what the nature of that energy was. And my skeptic, my foremost detractor was saying, well, if it was that powerful, it should have burned his clothes off or started the woods on fire, But, for whatever it is, it had the power to knock me 10 or 20 feet through the air. And as you know, a police stun gun is perfectly capable of knocking someone out without catching their clothes on fire. But in one of the police reports, the deputy wrote in his interview with one of the crewmen that they had described it as looking like a long blue flame. But other crewmen described it as like a big, blue laser blast or something, a lightning bolt sort of a thing. Whatever it was, I think it was probably very likely that it did cause at least cardiac arrest. And after I was returned, I underwent a whole battery of medical tests. And one of those was an electroencephalogram, which is a brainwave scan. And the interesting thing about this is that the technician was not told who I was or what had happened. He was just, this was at Barrows Neurological Institute, a world-famous brain trauma center, and all he was looking for was signs of injury. And he did remark on an unusual brainwave pattern there. And to me, this supports the idea that the energy did have some sort of a lasting effect on the nervous system. Now, I'm going to take that EEG report and get it reviewed again, and probably again initially in a double-blind situation, so that the person examining the charts is not biased by a report of what happened to me, just their opinion. Does this resemble someone who was received an electrical shock or a lightning strike or something of that nature? And then also, as follow-up, to actually repeat an EEG and see if that wave pattern is still there. Now, I've speculated that this unusual pattern, this possible disruption in the nervous system may have been the reason that these beings were not able to control me and keep me on the table, that I was able to lash out and move away from them. And, despite their best efforts to control me, telepathically, that wasn't going to work in the state that my nervous system was, at least at that moment.
When this happened, did you remember everything as it happened, or did those memories come by later?
Well, I was not able to relate what I'd experienced to anyone for a number of days completely, because it was just so traumatic to talk about that, I was just, doing everything I could just to hold it together, and talking about it, I would just break down. So the main thing that was accomplished with the hypnosis was not to try to get at the blocked portion of my memories, but to allow me to recall or relate what had happened to me separated from that fear. So, the relaxation techniques and all that, although it was still extremely intense, was the first time I was actually able to relate that conscious period. But, the hypnosis did reveal that there is some sort of a block on the further memories of what happened aboard during those 5 days. But only little bits have come through over the years, and nothing to report in that regard. But I've always been leery about undergoing hypnosis again to try to break through that repressed memory. And it only occurred to me in the last year or two that there might be a reason for that. That the possibility of regressing someone hypnotically back in time through a point where you were in cardiac arrest might actually cause cardiac arrest. And I'm not talking about, heart failure from fear. I'm talking about, the energy, if it actually, stopped my heart, that bringing you back in time through that point in time might be dangerous in that regard.
Well, my question would be, so I was not aware that you were under some sort of regressive state when you first were able to come up with details. How much did you remember when you were lying there after being returned? And I want to go back to the actual
everything
event.
Everything that was related under hypnosis was what I remembered before I underwent any hypnosis at all. So, a lot of people are curious about that, because one of the things the skeptics try to say is that these memories are really just implanted by the hypnotist with leading questions. But that was not the case at all. I related bits and little fragments of it prior to that, sort of a disjointed interview with the sheriff, just a few things that I'd said to my brother, immediately upon him retrieving me from the telephone booth. So, the memories were there intact. It was just the ability to express them. And that was really all that was achieved by the hypnosis. He wasn't, in any way breaking through the block.
In that vein, we have a series of questions from one of our top posters at forum.theparacast.com, Burnt State. He's wondering, upon your return, you were described as being in a healthy condition but absolutely terrified. What psychological support or assistance, if any, did you receive immediately afterwards to deal with the news media and to get through the first lie detector test? And how much conscious recall do you have in terms of hours over that 5-day period? Because it sounds like a lot of it is still just a blank. If you had to come up with an hour figure, I mean, what percentage of the time that you were gone do you have a conscious recall of?
Oh, probably around an hour, maybe more, maybe less. It was all that we were describing, in the hypnosis. It was, that was a huge, and always has been, a concern, a weight on my mind about what else there might be, and I think that contributes to my reluctance to undergo more hypnosis, is that, I've had my hands full dealing with what's happened up to now. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the question people are always asking, well, has anything more happened? And, like I said, I got my hands full just dealing with what I remembered when I woke up on the road that way there. And what was the other part of your question? The first.
Well, did you get any sort of psychological support? In other words,
yeah. Well, back then there really wasn't support groups like there is now. There's a number of organizations around the country who, have some therapeutic expertise and just the support of a group who have undergone similar trauma. But back then, they didn't have anything like that, and I had nothing. Even the psychiatrists, the team that examined me early on, they were so embedded in the orthodoxy that they wanted to interpret this whole experience as some kind of a psychological phenomenon rather than a real event. So that was of no help whatsoever. And I had no kind of counseling or, certainly no medication of any kind to deal with this enormous stress that I was undergoing. The memory of what I'd been through and all that was huge. And then to have all these horrible accusations being slung at me and my reputation, being dragged through the media.
Well, not to mention that your buddies, the members of your crew, were under suspicion that they'd murdered you and had concocted this story as a cover for some sort of altercation that had happened. I mean, it must have been difficult for them as well.
We have to do the break now, Travis, so I'm going to ask you more about that and give you time to respond rather than just rush through it right now, but we want to get into that particular point. So our guest is Travis Walton, who had this amazing encounter with a UFO back in 1975. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
A little right, a little left, but always independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network, GCN.
Does advertising on the Genesis Communications radio network actually bring positive results? Let's ask
Thomas Baldrick from Freeze Dry Guy.
Thomas, talk about customer service at GCN.
GCN is extraordinary in how they take care of their customers. The bottom line, Freeze Dry Guy keeps advertising on GCN because it works.
If you would like to experience unbelievable customer service, call Lee Wickenhauser at 877-996-4327, extension 107.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
On Facebook, on the news, and in conversations with friends, we're bombarded every day with advice on how to be healthier, from gluten-free and non-GMO diets to how much exercise and sleep the body needs. But how much have you heard about alkalizing the body? AlkaVision Plasma pH drops are a holistic and natural way to get your body's pH levels back in balance. Just a few drops in water will help your body rid itself of harmful waste. And even the healthiest of diets can be complemented with your daily use of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops. Who isn't looking for more vibrance, vigor, and energy? Now buy 2 bottles of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops and get $10 off your order. Visit alkavision.com or call 800-518-7615. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops are packed with a powerful combination of the most alkaline minerals and compounds. Open the door to greater health, vitality, and zest for life. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health. Call 800-518-7615 or head to alkavision.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
With Gene and Chris in the Paracast, Travis Walton recounting his 1975 encounter with a UFO and the period he spent aboard it. So let's get back to what Chris was asking here. So while you were gone for 5 days, the authorities wondered if maybe your friends had murdered you for some reason. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, they were under tremendous pressure, and there was, even a lot of hostility, in the accusations that were coming their way, even threats from my family members who suspected them of harming me. So they were protesting their innocence and saying they were willing to take sodium pentothal, lie detector, whatever, and the sheriff took them up on it. Whether he heard about their requests or just did it on his own, he called in the state police lie detector expert, the top guy in the state, and had them tested. And so when they passed, they weren't completely out from underneath the gun. The sheriff, still had a theory that maybe they had slipped me some drugs in my lunch that day and hit me on the head, and somehow, that they had created this illusion in my mind. Oh, they were also accused of just making up the story along with me and the crew boss to somehow get out of the logging contract. But that was thoroughly debunked by all the contracting officers involved in the logging contract, that there was no way that any such incident could in any way benefit Mike, the crew boss, and it certainly worked greatly to his disadvantage, as he would surely have known.
All right, so you wake up 5 days after it happened. Let's get more into your perceptions. They just suddenly feel like you're waking up after a night's sleep? What were your impressions?
Yeah, I came to pretty quickly, and I still had a little pain in my head for a number of hours afterwards, but it was cold, and I was lying face down, and it was dark, but I could see there was a light above me, so I turned to see where the light was coming from, and it went off before I looked, but there I could see above me this craft hovering in the darkness just for an instant before it just shot up into the sky. Well, my most recent memory was the feeling of total hysteria, feeling trapped. So the new surroundings was one of freedom, even though I was in the dark. It was still a familiar, environment to be on a paved road on Earth, in the forest. So that was quite a relief. And I was very unsteady on my feet. But my main feeling there was relief, like I had finally escaped this fearful situation. And I could see the lights of the town down below. And so I ran down and was able to call my family to come and get me.
This sounds almost like a fiction movie where somebody is captured or kidnapped and they wake up on the road. Let me go back here briefly to the hypnosis. Now, the person who hypnotized you, was that person previously familiar with UFOs and or abduction experience, or just coming at this as a neophyte in that particular category?
Well, the hypnotist was Dr. James Harder from the University of California at Berkeley, and he was a member of the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization. So he had done hypnosis in this type of a situation before. But he was a certified in the Lacrone School of Hypnotism, and it was really a major milestone in my recovery. That hypnosis session, that whole thing was a big step in relieving a lot of the fear and tension that I was under. It was unbearable, and his technique was amazing, and the ability to calm and relieve that fear.
You bring up APRO, UFO organizations that really did descend on you and the area because of the intense media scrutiny that ensued after your return. In the movie, the UFO investigators are portrayed in not so kind of a light. They come across as being very invasive, almost rabid in their attempts to get you to open up and trust them. And what was your impression of the actual kind of circus that erupted around you? And what was your impression of the UFO groups that were involved in attempting to get you to open up about what happened to you?
Well, there was quite a number of groups, and there was a tendency back in that day, and I think that probably still exists to a certain extent, that the tendency to brand a particular prominent case as a good one if it's your case, and suddenly it needs more examination if you don't have the case. And the depiction in the movie of the UFO group afar really is not representing APRO at all. They were very professional in every way. That was more representative of the group Ground Saucer Watch, who initially thought they had the case, and while they thought they had it, they were saying all kinds of positive things. But once it became apparent that this so-called medical doctor that they had sent me to was no doctor at all, once they lost the case, then they started attacking it with all sorts of accusations that this was really a drug hallucination, that this supposed doctor, who wasn't even a doctor or drug expert at all anyway, as they were claiming, that it was a drug hallucination. But it was absurd that the news media didn't, rather than jumping on this accusation, didn't ask the simple question, well, how do 7 people have the same hallucination?
Well, Travis, either that or you guys are absolutely out of your minds to be eating mushrooms or dropping acid while you're logging. Having done a bit of logging myself, I would suggest to our listeners that is not probably the best thing you can do to protect your safety and the safety of those around you by doing psychedelics while logging.
The most dangerous occupation in the United States is logging. A very high death rate, but nobody has identical hallucinations. And besides that, I had blood and urine samples put through the county medical examiner's drug screen at that time, which proved there was no trace of any drug in my body. And besides that, it's been on a question on several of the lie detector tests that I've passed. So, it's really an absurd thing, but, the skeptics, keep it alive to this day.
But Travis, don't the skeptics also talk about the fact that you were hypnotized? Because you have somebody here who may be supremely experienced at hypnosis, maybe unfortunately also experienced in the UFO field, and you combine them to suggest, well, maybe they asked you leading questions to get the kind of answers they wanted.
Well, that's a common accusation, but the hypnosis session was taped, and there were no leading questions. It was actually observed by 3 psychiatrists who were actually skeptical of the whole thing, a number of reporters, and my brother. They were all in the room observing this, and there was no leading questions. And again, just like with the hypnosis thing, if the hypnotist was planning memories in my mind, what about the 6 crewmen who saw the first part of it themselves, It just doesn't add up. It's a really lame excuse to try to say, because the rest of the crew wasn't hypnotized. What made them believe this happened,
Well, here's another question from Burnt State, and it's a good one. And this is something that I always point out when your case comes up in a conversation and people are wondering about it. I always maintain that you have been steadfast in your account. You have never embellished it. You never added or subtracted anything from it. And Burnt State's question is, unlike many other abductees, you have not changed or added to your story, nor have you destabilized into a mystical or space brother terrain or territory. What's your opinion, Travis, on other abductees' claims, such as Whitley Strieber, George Adamski, and the ever-present Stan Romanek?
Let's have that answer in our next segment, Travis, okay? We have Gene and Chris with Travis Walton. You're in
the Paracast.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
Mike Stenerson for Midas Resources. At no time in history have precious metals been more important, certainly not in my 22 years in the industry. The dollar has lost over 90% of its value in the last 60 years. No fiat currency has ever survived the government printing presses. Ours is not immune. The time is now to be proactive. 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Anything tied to the dollar is at risk. CDs, annuities, 401ks, IRAs, stocks, bonds, you name it, so decide. Do you want to leave a legacy of wealth or debt for your family? The choice is yours. Call me at 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. That's 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Be proactive, not reactive. Call 1-800-686-2237, extension 116.
At 30dayfoodsupply.com, you can now purchase a one-of-a-kind product not available anywhere else. A meatless burger dry mix in 4 delicious flavors. With our new Oregon Trail Foods vegan burgers, all you do is add water and fry. They need no refrigeration. They're packaged in Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber for a long shelf life. They're non-GMO. They're gluten, soy, nut, and chemical-free, but they're loaded with flavor. And a good source of carbs and protein, yet low in sodium. Flavors include Italian, spicy Mexican, 6 vegetable, and black bean olive. Go to 30dayfoodsupply.com or call 541-229-0010 and order today. Eat them every day, take them camping, or save them for an emergency. Check them out at 30dayfoodsupply.com and click on the vegan burger icon. That's 30dayfoodsupply.com, where all of our products are produced in Oregon by Oregon Trail Foods. 30dayfoodsupply.com.
Question: could too many GMO foods and toxins be overloading your digestive and immune systems? Answer: yes. If you're searching for a powerful detox that's gentle enough to use every day, use Pro EM1 from Terraganics. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic that uses good bacteria to suppress pathogens and gently eliminate toxins from your body. A healthy digestive system will cleanse and remove toxins, support weight loss, improve absorption of food nutrients, and aid in controlling yeast and other infections. Pro EM1 is made with only non-GMO and certified organic ingredients, has no preservatives, and is dairy, soy, wheat, and gluten-free. Pro EM1 is the key to your digestive health. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganics.com, spelled Terraganix.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Also available through Amazon Prime. Pro EM1 from Terraganics. Life's getting better.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Travis Walton is here today to answer your questions and ours, and he was asked one specific one by Chris from a frequent poster on the forum's Burnt State. Travis, can we have your response now?
One of the things that really outraged me about some of the skepticism was that people were passing judgment on my case when they didn't have even the most rudimentary facts of what happened. I mean, if you're going to attack something, you ought to at least find out what I said before you start saying what I said wasn't true. And so, in the first pages of my book, I quote Emerson: "Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance." So I've always tried to avoid doing that myself. And undoubtedly, as you would expect, being out there talking about this, I've encountered a number of other reports and people who have described certain things that have happened to them of a similar nature. And I'm always being asked my opinion about that sort of thing. I've always stayed away from passing judgment on any particular case because unless I've investigated, I don't have the right to be pointing a finger. But I will say that there are a lot of good cases out there, solid reports with good evidence that I personally believe is something of a nature similar to what I've experienced. And then on the other hand, there's quite a large number of cases that I think are of an entirely different nature, probably a number of different things other than the kind of thing that I experienced. Some are outright fabrications. Others are, just vivid dreams that people have, mistaken sightings of meteors, aircraft, or whatever. But that's not to take away one bit from the core reality here, that this is a widespread phenomenon experienced by other people who do, in my mind, meet the criteria necessary to accept what they're saying is really happened.
Well, this brings me back to the movie Fire in the Sky, which I enjoyed, I must say, and I recommend it to everyone out there to at least get a sense of what happened. Tracy Torme, who I've known for 20 years, I think did a very, very good job. Tracy was a little bit, how would I put this? Was a little bit peeved, I think, that the studio wanted him to ratchet up the fear factor, especially, obviously, during the actual scenes that were depicted while you were aboard the craft. One glaring omission that I've always kind of wondered about in terms of looking at the movie version of what happened versus your version in your book, and that is the appearance of what appeared to be humans in uniforms, and the whole scene where you were led into what appeared to be a hangar that was impossibly large for the size of the craft that you thought that you were aboard. My first question is, why was that left out? And then would you give us kind of a description of these humanoid types and how they interacted with you?
Well, it's not just the movie that left that out. In countless write-ups about this, magazine articles, interviews, documentaries, the presence of human-looking beings is just avoided altogether. To me, that's the most intriguing question. It led me to wonder if there was some Earth-based connection, and it could be the key to the whole thing, but, people avoid it. And I think, for the most part, including the movie, that this is done because they're trying to emphasize the invading monsters aspect of it. I gave a talk to a group in Hollywood recently, actors, directors, producers, and I was, basically pleading with them and, pointing out that, that there's such a wealth of story material about the civilizations on other planets without resorting to the invading monsters thing, that, there's all kinds of other fascinating storylines that they could come up with without, demonizing and making this into a horror story.
Why don't you describe these humanoid characters and give us what your recollections would suggest are beings that are very similar to us, if not maybe us? Give us kind of a sense of who these beings were, what your interactions were, and the kind of role that they played within this whole kaleidoscope of events that occurred while you were aboard the ship.
Well, the extreme fear that I was experiencing, seeing a familiar form like that was a relief, and I immediately interpreted it as a rescue. Their similarity to us led me immediately to assume they were us, but, I more and more I think that that's not necessarily true at all.
You say similarity to us in what respects?
Well, they would pass in a crowd on Earth. They were, tall, healthy, muscular, young-looking people, and kind of alike in a family sort of way, but, nothing that would draw that much attention in a crowd. So, my assumption that they were from Earth was totally to be expected, but in hindsight, I've done a lot of thinking about these beings and in the small creatures. I think that even in the case of the small creatures, that there are probably a number of species that look similar, but probably come from completely different planets and just get lumped together. Now, science fiction writers, and even the scientists who speculate about life on other worlds go to a ridiculous extent, in my view, of imagining creatures that are so bizarre as to be biologically impractical. Life is designed around surviving in a given environment, and life-supporting environments are going to be of a similar nature. When they look at these stars out there and they judge whether a planet is possibly life-supporting, it can't be too close to the star so that it's too hot, or too far away so that it's frozen. It's got to have water. These kinds of basic requirements of life shape the form of that life. One of the basic laws of biology here on the Earth is that similar environments create similar forms. And you can have completely unrelated species here on the Earth come to look very much alike just because their environment is so similar, even though they're unrelated. I cite a number of examples of various animal species that look very much alike but aren't derived from each other. And so that could be the case in what's called the grays, and also in these human-looking beings. That my prediction is that when a probe or some sort of positive verification of the nature of the life forms on these other life-supporting planets, they're not going to be astounded how bizarre they are. They're going to be amazed at the similarities that arise independently of Earth, how similar those forms are to life forms on Earth.
Like Vulcans and Earth people in Star Trek. Travis Walton is here. Sorry I dropped that in. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
Summertime is save big time at Herbal Healer Academy. Long-term customers know summer is the time to stock up at herbalhealer.com. And for new customers, welcome to the web's best place to save on vitamins, minerals, and more. Log on for summer specials, including all sizes of colloidal silver, colloidal minerals, and intestinal freedom on sale. Choose from Herbal Healer's great variety of weight loss products like apple cider vinegar, Hoodia, and Metabolic Complex and Pro-Metabolic, all on sale now. Also, the anti-parasite intestinal freedom and Wormwood Plus Complex, plus stevia liquid sweetener and the super enzymes, all on sale for summer at herbalhealer.com. As always, we offer certificate correspondence courses in natural medicine. Enjoy same-day shipping and free online newsletter. Log on now to herbalhealer.com and look for summer specials to save big with our nation's leader in supplying quality natural medicine and education since 1988. Herbal Healer Academy.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right, that's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100 foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
Hi, this is Don Ecker, and you are tuned into the Paracast. Let me tell you what, you're going to hear stuff here that you probably won't hear anywhere else. Hear that, George Snorri?
Okay, similar to us, life forms throughout the universe, humanoids. Interesting concept. Travis Walton is here. His book and the movie, Fire in the Sky, and a little bit later this year, he will be sponsoring the Skyfire Summit, Travis Walton's anniversary UFO conference, which if you want to get up there, you're going to see some great speakers. We have loads of questions from our listeners, and Chris O'Brien's going to go to the next one. Chris.
Travis, this question comes from Marduk, who's one of our posters at forum.theparacast.com. And he starts out his post with, "Holy crap. I would love to ask Travis about details about his time in the star chamber, where, if he remembers correctly, you pulled a lever and you were given an external view or simulation of the surrounding space outside of the craft. And he's specifically interested in any sort of user interface and what your impressions were, if this was like some sort of navigational tool, a pilot cockpit, or he puts entertainment device. Kind of wondering about that one. But what was this star chamber? And I remember from the book that you were given this opportunity to look at the surrounding space around you. Could you kind of describe that scene for us?
Well, that's all speculation as to whether it was a projection, a star map or simulation, or was actually a viewing of where it was at, in real time. Back then, things like touchscreen hadn't been invented, so it never even occurred to me to touch the screen to see if there would be any effect from that. And most of the buttons I pushed didn't really seem to do anything. I, of course, wouldn't have known how to operate it properly or what it was for. But all I was trying to do was open a door, hoping to escape. Whether this was some technology that allowed one to view through the sides of the craft, or if it was just like a projection, a planetarium-like simulation, I was unable to, tell the difference. But when moving the lever moved the star pattern, the entire pattern moved in unison. It wasn't like stars moving relative to each other. But that was very disorienting because this projection was 360 degrees all around me. Actually, in a few years ago, I went through some kind of a carnival thing where you're walking through this tunnel and they've got a big barrel surrounding you, and points of light are rotating around. And it's extremely disorienting. It's very hard to walk upright because your visual cues to vertical are distorted by these patterns moving around you. I wasn't like, gee whiz, look at this neat technology, exploring kind of a thing. It was just kind of a hysterical, desperate, mindless button pushing to try to open a door.
Well, boy, I tell you, I probably would have been pushing buttons and pulling levers myself if I were in your shoes in that situation. But it sounds like the technology may have not been as exalted as perhaps you would expect aboard a craft of this sort. Have you ever entertained the possibility that maybe this was some sort of like strange military psyops experiment, that you had become an unwitting participant in something very earthbound and very classified?
Yeah, I really did think about that. The idea that there was somebody from military intelligence getting involved and claiming to be a nearby witness, added to that, and the whole reality testing I was doing about what had happened here. I was grasping at any kind of an explanation, and I wondered, especially with the appearance of human-looking beings there, if this wasn't some kind of mind control experiment of some kind. And I went online and looked up mind control, and I was amazed. I had no idea that that this was an area that our government had been so deeply into. There was so many things online. It was astonishing.
Well, that kind of begs the question: what did these humanoid beings that you encountered give us a sense of their personalities, their demeanor? What sort of interactions did you have with them? What did they say? Were they trying to calm you down? Were they trying to give you information?
I was certainly screaming and pleading and begging for information, and they seemed determined not to provide any. They were totally silent, and I don't think they were mute. I think they were refusing to speak. And it might just be that they realized that in my total hysteria, my total loss of control, that there was no consoling me, there was no calming me down. And
we have some other questions. Do you remember ever drinking water, eating food, having to go to the bathroom? Do you have any sort of, basic human needs, recollections? You were gone 5 days. You came back in a healthy condition. Do you remember any sort of medical procedures to maybe supply you with some sort of liquid sustenance intravenously, or any sort of sense of maintaining your physical body?
Well, over the course of 5 days, naturally, all those sorts of things would have had to have occurred. So, being unable to remember that portion of it, I can't give the details about what happened there, but it would have had to have been fed, would have had been supplied water, wastes, and that whole thing. But that brief conscious period, certainly, I wasn't sitting down to a meal or anything, and during that, rather emotionally intense period of time. Who knows with a technology that advanced, what method of hydration and nutrient replenishment they might have. It could be that if I was in a coma a part of that time, that they might have some way of administering nutrition, just by bathing the body in a solution, or, even the way they do it in hospitals, where they can intubate people and introduce food into their stomach. Who knows? It's kind of futile to speculate on that kind of stuff because I just have no clues.
When you awakened on the road in the forest, you got up. Did you have to run to the bathroom or something? Did you feel hungry? Any of these common sensations?
There was some hunger and there was some dehydration. there was quite a pronounced weight loss that was restored in a matter of hours. Just by the next day, my weight had returned to normal. So that
Wait. Okay, just stop a second. I just have to understand this. A big weight loss. Did you weigh yourself? Did you look skinnier and suddenly you were back to normal?
Yeah. My when I was returned, my brother had me get on the scales, and I was lighter than I had been in previous days. You're there. You got bathroom scales. You just step on them every morning.
Sure.
And it was. We took the scales to the doctor's office and compared them to his. Trying to verify that his way, the doctor's scales versus mine, and there was a weight loss there that I recovered from very quickly. That the only way that would happen was if it was due primarily to dehydration rather than starvation. So, if they were supplying hydration, it wasn't quite adequate for what was necessary, but they may have had a reason for that.
I'm going to ask some specific questions about that before we get to our next question from a listener in our next segment. Travis Walton is here with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
You're listening to GCN, proudly sponsored by UnseenNow.com. Lock down your digital life at UnseenNow.com. This is GCN.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
September is National Preparedness Month, so make it a September to remember by getting your emergency food supply from the Freeze Dry Guy. On sale this month, our 2014 Stew Butter and Potatoes unit. You'll get one number 10 can each of high-quality Mountain House chicken stew, vegetable stew with beef, pilot crackers, plus the highest quality dehydrated ABC stew, butter and potatoes for a total of 160 1/2 cup servings. Retail value $161.41, but not this month. The Freeze Dry Guy offers the 2014 Stew Butter and Potatoes unit for only $123.93. Save over $37. Plenty of protein, veggies, carbs for energy, and tasty, hearty, storable food with a shelf life of over 25 years. Call 866-404-3663. Free shipping to the lower 48 states. Click freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's freezedryguy.com. Hurry! The National Preparedness Month sale ends September 30th from the Freeze Dry Guy. The finest freeze-dried and dehydrated foods available anywhere for long-term storage.
Ouch! My back is out again.
Hi, Dr. Ortman with Wellspring Spinal Care. If you're experiencing neck, mid, or lower back pain, this information is for you. One of the complaints that I hear is patients receive their typical adjustment, only having to repeat them as the pain returns. Putting the bones back in place is only half of the battle. At Wellspring Spinal Care, we have the entire solution. We use the NUCA approach, utilizing three-dimensional x-rays and gentle touch technology to deliver specific correction. We then design a custom nutritional supplement program which provides essential nutrients targeting the areas of concern. With a NUCA approach and proper nutrition, you'll be on your way to a faster and more permanent recovery. To get you on the road to wellness, visit drortman.com. That's drortman.com, or call us today, 952-303-9124. That's 952-303-9124. Wellspring Spinal Care, chiropractic done right.
If you need to say happy birthday, happy anniversary, thank you,
or simply I'm thinking of you. ProFlowers.com is the key. ProFlowers has stunning bouquets, like the best-selling 100 blooms for $19.99. Plus, ProFlowers will include a glass vase for free. Sending someone a wonderful surprise of beautiful flowers sent fresh from the fields is easy. Choose the bouquet you like, pick the delivery date, and each order is 100% guaranteed. Plus, all bouquets from ProFlowers are guaranteed to last at least 7 full days. Beautiful, fragrant flowers, picked fresh and sent to your loved one for lasting enjoyment. To get this incredible savings and send someone 100 gorgeous blooms with a free vase for $19.99, go to proflowers.com, click the blue microphone in the top right corner, and enter code PLOW. That's proflowers.com. Click the mic and enter code PLOW.
Hi, this is Nick Pope. You're listening to the Paracast.
Travis Walton wrote Fire in the Sky, a movie of the same name with a fictionalized account of his UFO abduction experience. You're on with Gene and Chris in the Paracast. So, okay, trying to clarify this here. What did you weigh specifically, Travis, before this episode occurred? Since you mentioned, going on the bathroom scale and everything. So I woke up this morning. I weighed myself after exercising. I weigh 184. What did you weigh?
I really don't remember the exact figures, at the time. I wrote them down at the time, but it was 5 or 10 pounds. Something was the difference between my normal weight and then what I weighed immediately afterwards, and then totally recovered from.
You're saying in a few hours, say you weigh 170 pounds, and you get back and you weigh 160, but in a few hours you weigh 170 again.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
All right, just trying to understand this.
Yeah, whether it was 5 or 10 pounds, I don't remember right now, but I'm sure I wrote it in the book, but it's just not a figure I carry around in my head. But all that was documented with, the doctor's scales and whatnot.
So when they finally got you back and you finally connected with the authorities, they sent you to the hospital for examination?
Yeah, well, the first medical examination was 2 doctors came to the house and did a thorough exam there. And then the next morning, I went into the office for the further testing. And then some of that was sent out, like to Barrows Neurological and the heart place where they did the EKG, the heart monitoring. So there were a number of tests that were, gotten to. It was fairly urgent to get them done fairly quickly. The concern being just, what were the after effects of this experience, including being hit by that energy.
Well, that kind of leads us to another question from Fast Walker, who posted at the question bank at forum.theparacast.com. And he's wondering if you've had any medical conditions or ailments, maybe since the abduction event, or have you recently come into being, that you suspect are results of the abduction? In other words, have you had any sort of medical conditions that you can tie to the event? And the inverse of this is, did you have any allergies or any other conditions before the experience that were cured by that? And his follow-up question to that is, do you find your mental condition to be one of increasing clarity after all these years since this event? Or do you feel your mental condition is about the same?
Well, I really used to duck those kind of questions a lot because I really didn't want to be the bug in the jar. But, many people report having various medical problems as a result of contact of some kind, but it's been quite the opposite for me. I've just been incredibly healthy ever since. I hesitated to ever report anything that I can't first prove, so I went into my employer and got a printout of my attendance record. And, in the last 39 years, I never called in sick one time. And I just, don't get sick. If the whole family comes down with it and they're sick in bed for 3 or 4 days, I might have some vague symptoms come on for a few hours and then it's gone. And I don't know. It could just be that I take good care of myself and got good genetics. It could, be unrelated, but I don't have any negative health effects from it.
Well, you seem like a healthy guy. I met you back in 2009 at I think the first Aztec conference, and I remember, for years. I mean, I must admit, Travis, I've been a huge, I can't say fan of yours. I mean, I really feel that you were kind of victimized in this situation. But I remember my first semester in college, reading all the news reports about your incredible claim and your encounter. And I've always wanted to meet you. And I finally got a chance to meet you in 2009. And I remember that you were really excited because you had confirmation from an Air Force officer about some sort of activity that had been reported by this gentleman right in the time frame where your event occurred in November 75. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? You haven't really mentioned much about that publicly.
Well, I don't have a lot of specifics, but it came to my attention here recently that there were a whole series of during 1975 and right in that time period, there were a number of close encounters reported by the military around nuclear facilities, especially across the northern United States. But in various places where there was nuclear installations, they had these unexplained visits.
Right, around Malmstrom Air Force Base in the mist fields there. Offutt, I think, had an encounter or two. But wasn't there some Air Force officer that claimed he had a sighting down in the area in Arizona where your event occurred?
Oh, yeah. There was actually a number. And, later on, after the case was closed, the sheriff's file revealed that people who had been camping in the area at the time reported sightings that described the craft that we saw. And but probably not everyone that saw something has come forward because, some of them have just been people who just called up and said, yeah, I saw this, but, it just went kind of undocumented.
Right. Clifford Mahooty, who's going to be speaking at the Skyfire Conference or Summit, is one of those people who had, multiple witness sighting of a craft that hovered right over the Zuni Pueblo. They were actually able to see what appeared to be beings walking in front of, backlit through windows. But I seem to recall that this particular Air Force officer was down in the area and had a sighting, I think, if not that same night, within that same couple-day time period.
Well, you may be referring to this guy coming forward that was actually a witness to my incident coming forward. He said that, he had been deer hunting with his wife and he was on the next ridge. And when he called up and described this, this is remote country and you'd have to be out there to be able to describe the terrain, which is never in any news report. And so I told Tracy Torme about it and then I just forgot about it. But apparently Paramount flew him out to Hollywood and interviewed him and then decided to give him lie detector tests. Now, at the time he was telling me this, he was saying that the reason he didn't come forward at the time was that he was in military intelligence at the time, and that he asked his superiors, should he come forward, because these guys were accused of murder. And he said that his commanding officer said, well, unless they're actually indicted, you should just stay out of it. And he said he'd always regretted not coming forward. So when Paramount had him polygraphed, they discovered that he was telling the truth about being in military intelligence, and that he was on the next ridge, and that he saw the glow of the craft through the trees, and even the flash of the beam when it struck me. And he passed a test on that, but when he took another test about being in connection with this effort to discredit the incident and the cover-up, the debunkers, he flunked that one. So naturally, Paramount, was pretty stern in their warnings about what he might be up to, and he kind of disappeared from the scene. But years later, I talked to a guy that was a member of one of these, what do you call them, patriot groups or something like that. And this guy was actually at that group as an infiltrator. And so, and he was telling them about having been present when this incident happened. And so, there was some kind of a covert military thing going on there that's kind of scary to think about. And there has been a number of things that suggest that some of the efforts to discredit this are linked to some kind of covert agency.
I've got a lot more to ask you. Chris has a lot more to ask you, and our listeners have many more questions. We'll try to get to most of them. Travis Walton with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Minds think alike. The network for the independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network. GCN.
No. I refuse to age. How would you like to refuse or even reverse the signs of aging? You can with a breakthrough skincare line that utilizes growth factors and plant stem cells to visibly turn back the clock. It's clinically proven and the results are stunning. Call 1-844-500-0815, 1-844-500-0815, or visit iRefuseToAge.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-888-912-1595. 1-888-912-1595. That's 1-888-912-1595. 1-888-912-1595.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Travis Walton is here. His book, Fire in the Sky, the movie Fire in the Sky, coming in November. We have that special event, the Skyfire Summit.
Yeah, www.skyfiresummit.com.
I can't wait, Travis. It's really going to be fun. I love Heber. It's a beautiful area up there. I've camped all along the Mogollon Rim from Turkey Creek all the way west, to, just down the road from my house. we're talking about this person that came forward that kind of gives a hint that there may have been some sort of government activity going on, some sort of covert military activity going on in and around the area on the Mogollon Rim where this incident occurred in November 75. And I have a question from Harry Newton, calls himself Hand. He's one of our dedicated posters at forum.theparacast.com. And his first question is, have you ever been questioned by, quote, a government agency, unquote, regarding the construction, performance, or control of the UFO that you were taking aboard? Or I would expand it and say, has anyone from the military or the government ever quizzed you about your experience?
No, and that's what's really strange, is that they've been so totally hands-off. And I'm not even trying to suggest that there's any reason for it, but even my foremost detractor just harassed other members of the crew and never once attempted to contact me at all. Never a word.
Talking about Phil Klass?
There was a Freedom of Information Act request on his FBI file, and it turns out that he was under investigation a number of times for revealing classified information. And they chose not to.
Now, who are we talking about here?
We're talking about Philip Klass. He was under investigation by the FBI for revealing classified information in connection with his job as an editor at Aviation Week and Special Technology.
Right.
There's a memo in the file from the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, to the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, basically turning the matter over to them. They were saying in there that they were deciding not to prosecute because to discuss these security breaches in court would, further compromise the secrets. But
right, would bring more attention.
People are prosecuted for this all the time, and all they do is swear in the judges and everybody involved, and you would not ever be able to prosecute anyone for revealing classified information if that was the criteria. That to prosecute it would further bring it out. So it's standard CIA recruitment tactics to gain control of someone or influence over them, to have some sort of prosecutable offense as leverage. And I'm not saying that I think that they turned him into a skeptic, but they certainly gained the ability to direct his activities and maybe help him out, because some of his efforts to discredit me,
well, Travis, speaking of efforts to discredit you, was it the Montel Williams show in the mid-'90s that you and Mike were on, where Klass was sitting there foaming at the mouth in the front row? Was that the show? That was
the Larry King show, and that was coincidentally right after that military intelligence guy called me up.
Right, because I tell you,
even in that situation, Philip Klass was never spoke to me. He was in another part of the studio, brought in by monitor, never addressed me, and I never addressed him. And to the day he died, he never attempted to call me or write to me or phone me up or anything. And that was his modus operandi, is to call up UFO experiencers and try to trip them up or in some way, misquote them, creatively edit what they say to make it look like they've said something they didn't. But not a single letter, not a single phone call from him, even though he harassed Mike. And one of the guys on the crew, the youngest guy, he was actually offered $10,000 from Philip Klass to discredit the incident. Money that was never exchanged because, of course, there was nothing to discredit. But this $10,000, well, I call it a bribe, was pushed for quite some time to try to get Steve to say something to discredit the case. And there's a whole lot of things that about Klass's activities that just don't square with somebody simply researching for an anti-UFO book. I mean, he invested way too much money in it. Flying to Texas and taking Steve out to dinner, and where's this $10,000 going to come from? You know, I doubt he made that much off of an anti-UFO book.
Well, he made a bet with Stanton Friedman that he lost and paid him $1,000. So.
Well, he bet me, and I proved him wrong, but he never paid me. But
right.
Wait a minute, Travis. Maybe he needed the money to pay off Stanton.
Well, that leads me to another question from one of our listeners. You know, I've noticed here in the last 5 years that other members of the crew that witnessed this event have come forward finally and have decided to become publicly acknowledged for their role in this event. What sort of relationship now do you have with those original crew members that were out there logging with you?
Well, that's the big hole in Klass's collaborator theory, is that we were never a group of buddies working together. We didn't even hang out together when we were off the job. We were there as coworkers, and you know, so I really lost touch with a lot of these guys to the point where, you know, it was after a couple of them died, it was months before I found out about it. Alan Dallas is no longer with us, and Dwayne Smith has passed away. So I'd always thought it would be great to get everyone together again, you know, and, you know, have some sort of a, you know, comparing of notes or whatever after all these years. But, you know, now that a couple of them passed away, that would be rather incomplete. But the most recent production that got most of the crew and a lot of people who had never been interviewed at all was the sci-fi series Paranormal Witness. They did an hour and a half just on my case, you know, for the first time going outside their 1 hour format. And it was really the best of dozens of documentaries that have been done in the last 39 years.
I'm going to want to ask you more about this in this segment, then we'll get into this further next time. You mentioned someone who took a polygraph test administered by Paramount Pictures. You also were subjected to what, 2 polygraphs?
5.
5?
I've passed 5 different lie detector tests by 3 different examiners, all of whom had extensive years in law enforcement. And, you know, at the time that the crew passed, the president of the American Polygraph Association said that the odds were 1,000,000 to 1 of there being any mistaken verdict when you've got 6 people being tested on the same issue. But now there's been 16 past tests in connection with this incident.
Now, the reason I ask you that is that it had been reported that you had a problem with one of these tests.
Oh, yeah. Early on, you know, there was a test. It was during the period of time when I was so extremely, you know, on the verge of a nervous breakdown that, you know, the psychiatrists were saying there's no way a test at this time could be valid. And turns out that the examiner was really not qualified, and his test results have been reviewed by, you know, 3 of the top experts in the world, and, you know, it was just riddled with errors, and they totally discount his opinion on the matter.
So if you look at the totality, you came through pretty good. Let's talk more about this in a moment. We have Travis Walton joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, are you tired of dealing with a slow web hosting provider? Well, check out A2 Hosting and their screaming fast Swift server platform. They even have SSDs that load pages 300% faster than the competition. Ready to give your site a speed boost? Well, tell you what, neighbors, head on over to a2hosting.com. That's A2, that's number 2, a2hosting.com. Check out their Prime hosting account. And get this, neighbors, they're even giving you an exclusive 25% off discount for all our listeners. 25%. And remember, their Guru Crew support team is standing by 24/7, 365 days a year to answer any of your questions. Now, to get the discount, use the coupon code GENE when you check out.
Have you ever felt like the United States government knows way too much about your financial affairs? I continue to hear stories about property seizures, frozen bank accounts, confiscation of stocks and bonds. It makes me wonder if the U.S. citizen will ever again have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unfortunately, with the Drug and Money Laundering Act, the IRS Revenue Ruling 6045 of 1984, and the Trading with the Enemy Act and Franklin D. Roosevelt's Executive Order of 1933, some precious metal holdings are subject to government intervention. For this reason, Midas Resources has prepared a report explaining the boundaries of trading precious metals privately. Whether if you have any intention of trading with Midas Resources or not, I have instructed my representatives to give this report out free. Call for your free copy at 1-800-686-2237. When investing, always proceed with caution. Again, call 1-800-686-2237. Exercise your legal right to trade metals privately. 1-800-686-2237.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey Water Filtration Systems. The Berkey Light Systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light System today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Chris there takes kind of a E.T. kind of tone there. Right, Chris? Is that your E.T. voice or a trickster voice?
No, I won't do the trickster voice. I get dogged too much every time.
He couldn't help it. He couldn't help it. Travis Walton is with us. We have that event coming in November, Skyfire Summit, with all those guests. Great guest list. This is as good as you get. I mean, you know, we have a few debates with a few of the people who are over there, at least one of those people, but this is about as good as you get when you have a UFO conference. In fact, I think you're doing a lot better than MUFON on this one, Travis.
Well, I heard that kind of went badly, but these things happen.
Well, you know, I think they don't vet their guests anymore. They're looking for box office. And this is a difficult thing, too. You're having this in a small town that's not an easy trip. It's not near an airport, for example. So do you think that's going to hurt the potential attendance?
Well, I've been to some pretty popular conferences where I had to drive an hour or two, from the airport to get there. So I don't think that's all that much of a problem. It's a little bit out of the way, but, right up the highway. It's, just a couple hours from the airport. And
Right, and you're going to be running shuttle buses or shuttle vans to and from the airport too, if I remember from the promo material.
Yes.
Yeah, and anybody who thinks that Heber is out of the way obviously never attended Lou Farish's Eureka Springs conference that went for 25, 30 years down in Arkansas. I mean, that was a hike to the Fayetteville airport. And the scariest airplane ride I ever had was going from Fayetteville to Dallas during an ice storm with a supercell that spawned 13 tornadoes. The stewardess aboard the flight retired after that flight. So I'm not saying that's going to happen going to Phoenix and then shuttling your way up to Heber. But, Travis, I'm really looking forward to it. I think that the Skyfire Summit idea is a good one. It's a beautiful part of Arizona. It's not saguaro cactus. We're in verdant pine forest, ponderosas. And, having camped right there in that area, it's really one of the most beautiful spots in Arizona, especially to have a conference of this sort.
You know what, Chris? Maybe what I'll have you do, Chris, is I will close my eyes and you'll drive me there.
Well, we'll just teleport you, Gene. How's that?
Scotty, beam me up. He never said, by the way, Captain Kirk, beam me up, Scotty. It was always a variation. One of those urban legends that didn't come true.
Play it again, Sam.
That's right.
He never said play it again, Sam.
Yeah. He said, play it, Sam, just like you used to, or something like that. Yeah.
I kept listening to that movie, and I thought they must have edited that segment out of it. It's not what I was supposed to hear.
Well, okay. We're going back to our question bank, which is where listeners to the Paracast can go on the forums at forum.theparacast.com. And you, too, can ask questions of our esteemed guests. And, Travis, this is a real pleasure. And thank you so much for, agreeing to be on the show. And this comes from Stagger Lee, who's one of our longtime posters at forum.theparacast.com. And he's wondering what your opinion is of abduction research that has now blossomed in the intervening almost 40 years. And he's wondering, what do you think of the work of Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, John Mack? Were these guys on to the truth of the phenomenon, or what?
Well, as I said before, there's a mix of truth and something else. And, and I don't mean necessarily falsehood. There's what's actually happening and some things that are being mistaken for what's happening. But, there's a core reality here that's very important to research. I think there's far more reports than there are, actual incidents, but, it's inevitable, I don't think that in any way discredits the reality of the phenomenon, People who are out prospecting for gold run across all sorts of things they think might be it, but, only gold is gold, and there is some authentic cases that really need study out there, and that's, what really needs to be done as far as ufology and the researchers is to, have more stringent protocol as far as trying to separate out, what's worthy of research and what's not.
Yeah, you think?
But people, this error in thinking permeates our culture. If O.J. Simpson goes in and is found not guilty, people say he was found innocent. No, he wasn't. That's not the same thing at all. To say that something is worthy of research and these aren't is not the same as saying these other cases are untrue. Many of them will be true, but they're just not the kind of evidence that you can deal with to know one way or the other. Our legal system really needs to, be fine-tuned in the terminology. Not guilty is not the equivalent of innocent. Skeptics make this. The skeptics say, if you can't prove this is true, if I can prove that you can't prove it's true, then I have proved it's false. And that's just bad reasoning. The inability to prove that something's true does not prove that it's false.
I agree. Absence of evidence is not evidence
right.
in that regard. Well, here's a question from Psychedelic Alchemist, who's a poster at forum.theparacast.com. And this is an interesting question. I don't think I've ever heard anyone ask you this before. Since 39 years ago, have you had any other UFO sightings or any sort of contact or any other event that you felt was high strange, out of the ordinary, maybe observing a sighting event that you couldn't explain? I'm sure that you've been, very diligent in, keeping your eyes open as you go through your everyday life. Have you ever had any more sightings or any sort of event?
Well, all these years I've been asked that question, and I've always said, that if anything more was to happen, I wouldn't tell anybody. But I did have a sighting in February that I will admit to because I had two people with me. I was leaving a MUFON meeting in L.A. We were driving up the 5 towards the 10, and this sounds almost unbelievable, but one of these giant triangular-shaped craft came down to the west of the 5 towards us, stopped over the top of us, flying very low, gigantic, sort of turned, and then, by then it was over the roof of the car and couldn't see what happened after that. It was clearly visible, unmistakable, and I was just astounded that, something flying over that gigantic over a city the size of Los Angeles, there would be all kinds of reports, but you know what? People just don't look up. But when I got home, my son went on this website called UFOstalker.com, and there was a whole cluster of sightings right there. They had a Google map type thing on the site showing that, there was about a dozen sightings right at that spot at that time.
Let's break it here, Travis, and we'll get into more of this. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
You're listening to GCN, proudly sponsored by UnseenNow.com. Lock down your digital life at UnseenNow.com. This is GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's Lemke soft.com. Lemkesoft.com. Lemke soft.com.
Hi, this is Steve Sanchez, and based on a recent study, it was found that 57 million Americans had legal issues over the last 12 months, but only 60% of those studied sought out the services of a lawyer. Why? In a nutshell, affordability. Well, my friends at Legal Shield have created a solution that can help you not if, but when you need an attorney. For as little as $17 per month, Legal Shield will provide you unlimited access to qualified attorneys at an accomplished law firm for advice and counsel on legal issues, no matter how serious or trivial. For over 40 years and with 1.4 million families across North America, Legal Shield can help you, the loyal GCN listener. Representatives are standing by now to answer your questions, so call them now at 1-855-340-SAVE. That's 1-855-340-7283, or visit them at lsprotection.com. That's lsprotection.com.
Results will vary from case to case.
September is National Preparedness Month, so make it a September to remember by getting your emergency food supply from the Freeze Dry Guy. On sale this month, our 2014 Stew Butter and Potatoes unit. You'll get one number 10 can each of high-quality Mountain House chicken stew, vegetable stew with beef, pilot crackers, plus the highest quality dehydrated ABC stew, butter and potatoes for a total of 160 1/2 cup servings. Retail value $161.41, but not this month. The Freeze Dry Guy offers the 2014 Stew Butter and Potatoes unit for only $123. $3.93. Save over $37. Plenty of protein, veggies, carbs for energy, and tasty, hearty, storable food with a shelf life of over 25 years. Call 866-404-3663. Free shipping to the lower 48 states. Click freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's freezedryguy.com. Hurry! The National Preparedness Month sale ends September 30th from the Freeze Dry Guy. The finest freeze-dried and dehydrated foods available anywhere for long-term storage.
The human body is extraordinary. Despite all the stresses we inflict upon it, it still works hard to stay in balance. Thousands upon thousands of people rely upon Heart and Body Extract to help their body stay balanced. This excellent 100% natural herbal formula helps maintain healthy blood pressure levels, cleans arteries, promotes good circulation, balances cholesterol, and more. HB Extract, paired with healthy lifestyle choices like good nutrition and exercise, can give you a life free of pain, sickness, and fear. Recapture your youthful vitality and experience your body healing itself with the aid of HB Extract. It's extremely effective and it starts working in just days. Visit hbextract.com to learn more and to read scores of testimonials from satisfied customers. And we've never increased our price in over 10 years. That makes Heart and Body Extract as great a value now as it was the first day we sold it. A healthy heart is a happy heart. Call 866-295-5305 or go to hbextract.com.
This is Kurt Seven, the author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
You ever think here, we always hear the claim that since so many people have smartphones, we got the brand new iPhone 6 just came out this week, Travis Walton, and the key thing about it is that it has a better camera. And the bigger one, the iPhone 6 Plus, has optical stabilization, so you can take great high-definition movies. But the problem with smartphones, as you know, is that people are looking down at their smartphones. They're not looking up in the sky to see something they might want to photograph.
Well, it's interesting that, Tracy Torme commented to me recently about this, and he really thinks that the occupants of these craft, with their technology, have actually modified their behavior because of the existence of cell phones and cameras like that. If the crew had, if this happened when cell phones exist, there would have been 7 cameras going there. If
would have been on Facebook within a couple of hours.
The NSA knows where every single one of these cell phones is. Certainly this technology, hundreds of thousands of years ahead of us, could do the same thing and, either avoid them or even actually reach in there and tamper with what's being recorded.
That begs the question, why do they even have lights at all? They don't need to have lights like a Christmas tree or, unless it's some sort of...
I've talked about that subject here recently. You've got the two extremes, the skeptics who say if this was real, they'd land on the White House lawn and say, here we are. And then I bring up the point that with a technology hundreds of thousands or millions of years ahead of us, as Michio Kaku points out, that, quit imagining them as being a few hundred years ahead of us. With their technology, they could do everything they want to do here and remain completely undetected. Now, they're doing neither. They're neither remaining undetected and they're not landing on the White House lawn. And I theorize, my theory is that they are playing this peekaboo sort of barely verifiable, provable sorts of sightings on a continuing basis for a purpose. And it's related to this science fiction thing of non-interference directive, that there's a conditioning program going on here. We're getting accustomed to the idea that we're not alone in a way that won't be as incredibly disrupting as it would be if they were to land on the White House lawn. Now, if that were to happen, half the world wouldn't go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, and the other half wouldn't believe that it was true. They would think it was just some sort of disinformation program.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings up a question here that we have from Alien Esquire, who's a recent poster here at forum.theparacast.com, and he's wondering if you believe that the general public's perception of your encounter has changed over the last 39 plus years, and if so, has this public perception helped or hurt your ability to promote awareness of these types of events? And what, if any, effect has the ufological community's perception of your encounter had on your ability to actually communicate to people about what happened to you?
Well, I think that, to answer the last part first, that, some of what goes on in the ufological community has muddied the water a bit because there are, some rather outlandish claims out there that, we get branded. If the news media comes to a conference and there's a guy with a tinfoil hat or a wire pyramid on his head, that's the guy that's going to be on the news that night. They're not going to talk to the rational, well-reasoned, scientific-minded person who's giving good reasons for why this is a respectable area of study. But to answer the first part of the question, yeah, over the years, there's been a definite improvement in the acceptance of what happened to me. I think due in part because I've written a book that took every single allegation the skeptics made head on and refuted them with solid documentation. But, also, back when this happened, they weren't for certain there was a single planet outside of this solar system. Astronomers, of course, theorized that other stars probably had planets, but even the Drake equation had far lower numbers than has been borne out by Kepler. NASA announced in the last year that it's a virtual certainty now that most stars have about a dozen planets going around them. And they've even been able to determine which ones are possibly Earth-like. And so, this understanding, this dawning awareness has changed the public attitude. The likelihood that we're, completely alone and all those little sparkly things in the sky at night are just there to give us something to look at, is an absurd notion and rather egocentric. I think, acceptance of the whole idea in general has grown, and the fact that a lot of false rumors have been dispelled over the years has contributed to greater acceptance. And, I'm feeling it on the local level, too. People come up to me and shake my hand and say, I always supported you, but only now am I coming forward with the confidence to say so publicly,
Yeah, well, this brings up the whole subject of public perception of ufological events and how the media, when it gets involved, tends to ratchet up the fear element, ratchet up the suspense, the drama. Here's a question from Stagger Lee, who, again, is a poster at forum.theparacast.com, where you can ask questions of our guests. He's wondering about the film Fire in the Sky. And he says, I understand the producers took great liberty in recreating your experience aboard the saucer. And he's wondering if you had any say over this, whether you were able to be involved.
No, I had no say over that. And, I tried to exert some of that influence and almost got myself barred from the set. Now, once you sign your rights away, that's the way it is. And it's not just me. Michael Crichton wound up walking off the set of several of movies that were made from his books because of disagreements with. But it's understandable that Hollywood is not going to put someone else in the driver's seat when they've got millions of dollars to invest. To them it's a business, and they're not going to allow me to have any sort of veto power. It just doesn't happen. And even at the most highest level with writers and people having their books made into movies. So I had no control over that. However, I am looking to get a remake of the movie done, and I've had people email me to expressing that desire, and so I'm collecting all those emails, and one day I will take them to the studio and say, there's definitely an interest out there in seeing something that sticks more true to what really happened.
The only hope you have here, Travis, is that Hollywood, running out of ideas, is regularly mining older films to do remakes.
Rebooting.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying, Chris?
Remakes rule.
I said let's reboot the whole scenario, because I know, talking with Tracy over the years, that he was very, very upset with the portrayal of the actual events that occurred as you remember them aboard the ship. That, in fact, there was even talk about some sort of legal injunction at one point. Well, do you think that the fact that Hollywood takes these cases, yours in particular, but cases in general, and goes through this embellishment, this ratcheting up the fear, or they do their own Hollywood spin on it. Do you think that this has, in your case, do you think this has diminished your case in any way? Are you okay with how your events aboard the ship were portrayed in the movie?
Well, I was extremely disappointed at the time, and I did receive some backlash. Although at the time, my reaction to it as being so horrific and so, terrorizing was pretty accurately, it left people with the feeling that I had at the time. But over the years, realizing that it was probably more about reviving me than just, taking me aboard to experiment on me or torment me, that evolving consciousness, awareness is something that I think needs to be redone. And so, the fact that the movie was made at all did open up people's willingness to take a look at the facts and follow up on, reading the facts I put down in the book. And so in that sense, it helped to get the truth out there.
We have Travis Walton joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Not just an alternative to the mainstream media. We're the premier independent talk radio network. We are GCN.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
American gardeners and fellow patriots, make the right choice with your money, time, and your family food supply. Choose 100% pure heirloom seeds in the Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com. Why spend more? The Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com is only $37.95 and includes 20 varieties of pure, hardy, easy-to-grow heirloom seeds. Yes, only $37.95. That's 70% less than our competitors. You could buy 3 Survival Seed Vaults for less than one of theirs. The Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com includes detailed planting and seed-saving instructions and ships same day. Plus, all orders over $49 ship free. MyPatriotSupply.com is American-owned by patriots like you, passionate about freedom and preparedness. Call now, 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927. Or discover more emergency preparedness items when you order at MyPatriotSupply.com. Choose the original. Choose the Survival Seed Vault at MyPatriotSupply.com.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right. That's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100-foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
Summertime is save big time at Herbal Healer Academy. Long-term customers know summer is the time to stock up at herbalhealer.com. And for new customers, welcome to the web's best place to save on vitamins, minerals, and more. Log on for summer specials, including all sizes of colloidal silver, colloidal minerals, and intestinal freedom on sale. Choose from Herbal Healer's great variety of weight loss products like apple cider vinegar, Hoodia, and Metabolic Complex and Pro-Metabolic, all on sale now. Also, the anti-parasite intestinal freedom and Wormwood Plus Complex, plus stevia liquid sweetener and the super enzymes, all on sale for summer at herbalhealer.com. As always, we offer certificate correspondence courses in natural medicine. Enjoy same-day shipping and free online newsletter. Log on now to herbalhealer.com and look for summer specials to save big with our nation's leader in supplying quality natural medicine and education since 1988. Herbal Healer Academy.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
We have Travis Walton joining Gene and Chris in the Paracast. We've asked him over the years to get over here and talk with us, and we're happy that he's come aboard. I think you're getting put through the ringer in terms of questions, Travis, but you know your stuff, and you're coming through great. Let's move on, Chris.
Travis, let's go ahead and talk more about the Skyfire Summit. You have an incredible lineup of experts. What sort of criteria did you kind of tick off in your mind about how to inaugurate what I'm assuming you're hoping is an annual event in a fairly obscure part of Arizona? I mean, what do you see for the Skyfire Summit? And again, what sort of criteria did you use to select your speakers, and where do you see this particular conference going in the future?
Well, there was a huge number of speakers to choose from. And what I was after, having something here on my home turf, I know this is going to be, attended nationally, but I was also very conscious of making this sort of an Ufology 101, sort of an introduction to the field. And I wanted people who would take the basic facets of the field of study in general, and kind of put the best foot forward as far as laying the groundwork for people to have a broader, basic understanding of what's really going on.
Okay, I also want to ask you here in terms of this kind of event. Now, I guess one of the impediments, of course, getting a large attendance is that you have to charge a fair price to cover the travel costs of the guests. They don't just fly from disparate parts of the country for free. Does that ever serve as a problem, too, about the fact that you've got to charge enough to be able to cover your costs, and that might be a lot more than some people are prepared to pay?
Yeah, that is a daunting thing, but people need to understand our cherished goal is to break even. We just got to pay the bills, and even the venue is to rent is over $1,000 a day. So there's a lot of overhead, and that's where it's all going. But I think people will find it's well worth the experience because there's a whole wealth of material being presented here.
Do you get a lot of media attention so far on this?
We're having a film crew from France come in. They're filming a feature film, and it's going to be, the conference is going to be a little bit of the backdrop for their docudrama. Well, it's actually a fictional film, but it's more reality based. And then there's also a major magazine from France sending a writer over, and there's a number of other film crews and Hollywood types going to be present, but still quite early. I've invited the actor who played me, D.B. Sweeney, to come, and I haven't heard back from him yet, although his agent contacted me about joining him on the autograph circuit here recently. And I also invited the Grammy winner, Sonny Moore, also known as Skrillex. And I spoke at his birthday party in L.A. here recently, and they said maybe. So I'm waiting to hear back from them about them, having an autograph session together, say on the 5th or 6th. And it's just we're getting a late start here, and things are developing day by day. New things are coming in because we just barely announced. But the website is up now, and it's full functioning as far as signing up for the first day. And so,
and we're going to have a direct link to the conference site to allow people, the chance to find out more and to sign up and come to the conference. And I invite everybody to come say hello, meet Travis, listen to these great presentations that'll be there. Travis, we've had a number of questions on the forum that you are not living in a mansion. You have not become a wealthy man, promoting your case. You don't make your everyday nut your living from this. What do you tell people that say, "Oh, Travis, he came up with this whole thing just to make money, to become famous"? You have your detractors that want to know how much money you made off Fire in the Sky, how much money you've made off your appearances and stuff. What do you tell people that claim that you're only in this for the money?
Well, I made less off the movie than some of the minor actors. And, overall, I would say this thing has hurt me financially over the years. It's certainly cut off a lot of avenues that I might have had in my life. And even now, like I said, with the conference, break even is our goal. And heck, if I didn't have my pension from the Steelworkers Union, I couldn't pay my bills. So, no, it hasn't made me rich, never will. But that's, right now, for so many years, I groused about the burden that, having had this happen, that, with all the problems and everything, I've come to realize that there's a responsibility that comes with it. And I'm hoping to make a positive difference in the world as far as making people aware of the truth and how to get it.
So you're not running around saying, "Ain't it awful"?
Well, not anymore. I've got to accept, what is. You can't run away from it anymore. It's not going to go away. I've tried that. Quit talking about it for a few years, and all it does is leave the stage free for people to, get out there and say things that aren't true. So.
Did you ever think the incident would repeat itself sometime in your life?
Well,
God.
You mean
God? I hope not.
With somebody else, but with me.
With you? Did you ever think that maybe this is all going to happen again? I mean, there are stories here of people who have been abducted by quote-unquote UFO aliens, and it happens again and again and again.
Yeah, what about your kids? Have anyone else in your family had any sort of sighting experiences or up-close encounters?
Yeah, I'm pretty protective of my family, so, and even to that extent, even if it was to happen to me again, I've often said I doubt I would even make it public. I really had no choice in my case. People say, "Oh, he's a publicity seeker." Well, right after this happened, I avoided the media. And then they acted like, well, he's got something to hide. And then as soon as you come out, well, you're a publicity seeker. So, you can't win.
Wherever you go, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Travis Walton, tell our listeners where they can find more information about your UFO convention event, the Skyfire Summit.
Well, I have my own website, traviswalton.com, but the conference is www.skyfiresummit.com.
Skyfiresummit.com. Let me just tell our listeners, we do have a link at the Paracast forums and at the Paracast.com to that site and also to Travis-Walton.com, which is his regular site. So either way, you click the link, you can get there and learn more about the conference. And as I said, I'd like to go there, probably have Chris drive me with my eyes closed because I don't like mountainous roads. And every time that's why I don't visit Chris's home. He's 2 hours away. I don't go there because I just don't dig that. Hey, we've got to tell our listeners also that if you want to ask questions of our guests, you go to forum.theparacast.com. That's forum.theparacast.com. And by the way, we've got something special going on here. Chris is giving away a free copy of one of his books, Secrets of the Mysterious Valley, ebook version. The ebook version of Secrets of the Mysterious Valley. If you go to theparacast.com, sign up for our weekly newsletter. It is free. Within a day or two, we'll send you out a copy of the book. Thousands of people have already taken advantage of it because our mailing list is growing by leaps, bounds. Did I say leaps and bounds? Also, check out Chris's site, OurStrangePlanet.com. That's OurStrangePlanet.com. Of course, his most recent book is Stalking the Herd. And by the way, maybe when we get Travis on the next time, we'll talk about the cattle mutilations happening in the 70s around the time of his UFO encounter. We didn't have the time this time. Travis Walton, thanks for joining us on the Paracast.
Well, see you next time.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.